Hi everyone, Timothy Dunn here. Let's dive right into law number 7. And again, we're going through the 48 Laws of Power that's written by Mr. Robert Greene. Now, I really like this one, so stay with me. This is something that hopefully you're going to learn as much as I did, because this is something I know has probably happened to you, and it's happened to me dozens of times. Listen to this. Now, you don't necessarily have to agree with it, but I'm going to try to put a spin on it that can help those of us that want to play the game ethically can use. So here we go. Law number 7 says, get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit. Wow. That's just unbelievable. That's totally different than what I was taught. So the synopsis here says, the use of wisdom, knowledge, and legwork of other people to further your own cause is wise. Not only will you use such assistance to save you valuable time and energy, it will also give you a godlike aura of efficiency and speed. In the end, your helpers will be forgotten and you will be remembered. Never do yourself what others can do for you. Wow. I mean, that just goes against everything that I was taught, but you and I both know in a corporate environment, that's happened to us. So a couple of examples in the chapter. And again, stay with me because I'm not preaching something that's the occult or anything like here. Let's just go through and see what the book says and then see if we can find a positive spin that we can adapt to ourselves so we can stop being the victim. In the book, it talks about Edison and this gentleman that's named Nikola Tesla. Now, the thing about Edison that we don't understand as Americans is that he was a very bright man, but he didn't necessarily do all the legwork and invent all of the inventions that we give him credit for. What he did is he was an extremely good marketer, he raised a lot of money, and he knew where to find good talent. One of those guys was Nikola Tesla, and he used him over and over and over again. Now, let's understand who Nikola was. Nikola was a purist. He was a pure scientist, and he loved to invent things. So what he thought is, you know what, the science is going to validate itself. I'm going to go out, I'm going to do a good job, I'm going to create things that the world needs, and God or the universe or whatever, I'm going to get credit, because I've done something good. Does that resonate with you at all? I'm going to go out and work hard, I'm going to keep my head down, and you know what, they'll just see how wonderful I am, and eventually I'll get credit. It's kind of like the story of Joseph in the Bible. It's one of those things that we honestly hope is true. And if you look at the number of movies that are built around this, there is a collective desire. There's almost a yearning for validation. And that's why those movies are well attended, because we want that to happen. Why is it that they're attended? It's because it doesn't happen in our daily lives. We do get passed over, we do get run over, and other people take credit for our work. So let's get back to the book. Tesla, what he did is he allowed Edison to take all of his know-how when he improved an invention, and he allowed Edison to be the front man. And when it came down to it for the patents and the trademarks, the thing that Tesla didn't understand is that Edison would put everything under his name. He's the one that would go out and do these massively wonderful demonstrations in the street, and nobody could remember Tesla's name, but they knew who Edison was, and they, by default, gave him the credit for everything. In the book, it also talks about an explorer, and this explorer was Vasco Balboa. Now, Balboa, he wanted to be the next Cortez, and he wanted to find the lost city of El Dorado, where all the riches were. And what he did is he spent most of his time working very hard, and one of the things that he also did, according to the book that was wrong, is that he told his top officials everything he was doing all the time and kept them in the loop. Now, this is something we're told to do all the time, right? Our boss wants to know, what are you doing? How are things progressing? Well, he over-disclosed, and at the end, one of his generals actually had him set up for treason and had him beheaded, and the general was the one that took the credit for discovering El Dorado. There's another example in here about an artist. His name is Peter Paul Rubens. Now, this is interesting because I love art. He would have an art studio, and what he would do is go hire all of these young, fantastic artists, and he'd have all these canvases set up, and it was just amazing. They would all paint just beautiful paintings. He would come behind with their knowledge and with their acceptance and make just a few changes to their artwork. But when he had a very rich investor come in, an art collector, he would shoo everybody away, and he would, show them all the different paintings that he was working on, and he would make little changes here and there, and he was just, I can't believe this guy's so prolific. Look at how much work he's doing all by himself. And what's amazing is he never gave credit to any of the other artists, okay? So that's what's happening, and that's what the book tells you to do, okay? So what can we do? I'm going to close the book. What can we do to learn something from this law to make it a little bit better for us? Number one, you can't get away from hard work. So if you're given a project and you know that it's something that's pretty important that you're working on, you've got to put your heart and soul into it, because that's what your company is paying you for. One of the things you can do, and this is through the previous 6 laws that we've listened to, you can kind of close things up just a little bit. Maybe you don't share as much of the day-to-day, but you want to document everything, and you want to make sure that you have the ability to explain all the ins and outs of a project in case you're called upon. So what happens is you do need to report to your boss, but maybe we don't have to tell them how we got the stroke of genius or how we overcame certain things. They're just looking at the end product. The second thing that you do is you want to make sure that you support your boss and you're there during the presentation. If there is an ability to go through things in a presentation, inevitably, a very smart king or queen, and I'm talking about a senior manager, is going to ask some pervasive questions. And that's when you're not necessarily going to take away power from your boss, but you're going to be able to shine because you know the ins and outs. You know how all of the pieces were connected. I don't know whether you remember or not, there was a movie with Harrison Ford and I think it was, I don't know, Meg Ryan or Melanie Griffith and Sigourney Weaver. Is about a radio company or something like that. And it was madly popular because it was Melanie Griffith. She took this huge project, and Sigourney Weaver had broken her leg, and she did all the work. And at the very end, Harrison Ford figured out that Sigourney Weaver wasn't the genius behind the plan. And eventually that person got busted, and it all ended up being great. The same thing can happen. It's not going to happen every single time, but the same thing can happen to you. Now you have to be very careful, because there's a thing called a reversal. One of the things you don't want to do, again, you don't shine brighter than the boss in the room itself. You have to be very quiet, but you can be seen as competent. And if there's some things that you've kind of withheld to make sure that everybody understands that you are the author of that wonderful project, it's going to come out, and that's how you're going to gain some power on your own. But one of the things you don't want to do is you don't want to cut your boss down. Eventually, the competence and the genius behind it will be seen, and what we have to do, again, we don't want to wait for this, but if you withhold a little bit of that information, you become indispensable. Now let's turn this over the other way. What if you're the boss? And all of a sudden we're practicing just a little bit of this, and we're going to go ahead and use some talent. And yeah, it's my team. I was the one smart enough to hire or gather that individual, and I'm going to make them part of my team. And yeah, I deserve the credit. Okay, well, that's all fine and good, but just remember, the same rules apply to you. If you have something that you're not 100% sure about, you've got to make sure that the people that put your plan together are involved in the room. The best way for them not to take power away from you, or for you not to crumble as a leader, is to spread out the credibility of the project to those individuals early, so that you can neutralize them should they want to step up in front of the king or queen, the senior manager, and kind of take away some of your power. Neutralize it early. Make sure they know it was a team effort. And you also want to invite the team if your project is risky. If it's something where you know you could get busted because you don't know all the pieces to the puzzle, or if it's something that if it doesn't go quite well, it could be bad news, you definitely want the team in there, and that softens the blow because it spreads it among many different people. So I think there's some things to learn. Number one, we don't have to show everything to our boss all the time. We do have to work hard, but you want to keep those tidbits to yourself. Number two, in an environment, you want to make sure that you are heard, and the competence and the succinct nature with which you put the project together comes out. And that's going to be seen by the people that are overseeing your whole division or your boss. Number three, if you're in a point of leadership and it's a risky environment, surround yourself so that the impact of failure is a little bit neutralized, and always give credit. If you're in a group environment, give credit early to the team. It does two things. Number one, it makes you look very humble, and number two, it neutralizes anybody that has it out for you that may want to go ahead and take you down as a boss. I hope that's been helpful. Again, all of these things are wonderful to practice. It's difficult to remember them all, but it's something that we need to refresh ourselves. And the whole purpose, again, for me, is so that I don't become a victim as often, and I can learn some things that other people have learned how to succeed in corporate America. Thanks again. I'll get back to you just as soon as I can with another law. I hope you're doing well. Take care, and thanks for staying with us on this journey.